Hi, my name's Kangla Kangaroo. I'm 25 years old and have just over $300,000 invested. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about the 5 key principles that I think had the most impact on me reaching this financial goal so that maybe you can apply some of them to your own financial journey. And the first, and I guess most obvious principle, is to invest early and invest often. Warren Buffett once said, "Someone sitting in the shade today is because someone else planted that tree a long time ago." Now, year over year, the market fluctuates up and down, but over the long term, it's gone up and to the right. So it makes sense to get your money invested as soon as possible so you can start taking advantage of the compound interest. Now, I started seriously investing in my 20s when I was still a student in Canada. Now, over the course of my university career, I was very lucky where my mom was able to help me out with like the first year and a half of school, but after that, I kind of had to figure it out myself. Now, between paying for classes, paying for rent, paying for loans, my groceries, and let's be honest, a little bit of partying, I was still able to invest a little bit of money from the internships that I had throughout the span of my university career. Now, I think establishing those habits early in my 20s has done a tremendous amount of good for me. Like understanding where money was going and developing the habit of investing has helped me to this day and has formatted a lot of the ways that I look at money right now. So continuing on with the things that I've learned from university, I want to talk about my second key principle, which is living below your means. Now, for this point, I literally could have said living down bad because to be honest, for a lot of university, I was living kind of down bad. Now, I remember one time I lived in the house with like 7 or 8 people, and the landlord actually lived in the basement as well. And whenever we got a little bit too loud, he would turn off the electricity for the whole entire house, even in the winter in Canada. And I remember one time it got so cold that we had to call the police to get the landlord to turn the electricity back on. He still didn't do it that night, but just to paint a picture on how crazy the situation this was. Now, I'm telling you this just to paint a picture of where the bar for my living standards were, and to be honest, they were in the basement with the landlord. Well, when I graduated, I accepted a job working in Seattle, and I had the opportunity to find my own apartment and my own place to live. Now, I think one of the key decisions that helped me explode my net worth was living in a place that was well below my means. Now, I think rent or housing is going to be one of the biggest expenses you're going to have month to month. And I also think it's where you can extract the most amount of flexibility within your budget, whether that means buying things or spending money on things that you enjoy or using that extra money to invest. Now, I think a lot of people in this situation would be like, hey, like I want to live in a really nice place after I've endured, 4 years, 5 years of living in the gutter. But for me, I reframed it as, hey, this apartment is a huge upgrade for me. There's no holes in the floor, which is totally true. When I was living at university, there was a hole in the floor that would lead from, the ground floor to the basement where the landlord slept. So making that active decision to lower how much I'm spending on housing, whether this is through getting a lower cost apartment that's not as nice finishings or having a roommate, which I currently have right now, has really helped me explode my net worth. And this kind of ties into point number 3, which is the key principle of understanding what your goal is long term, figuring out what you need to do to reach that goal, and then locking in mentally. Now, for me, my financial goal is to achieve FIRE. And if you don't know what FIRE is, you can watch this video where I've explained what FIRE is and also what it means to me. And when I say lock in, I mean that I think it's pretty hard to stay focused and disciplined on this long-term financial goal when everything around you and everyone around you wants you to fail. I mean, if you think about it, money really does make the world go round, and everyone is vying for your money in particular. All these company shareholders, all the media that you see, all these advertisements that you see, they all want your money. Now, even by me making this video and you watching it, I am stealing some of your attention, which you could argue is money because, time is equal to money, whatever. Now, I think in a bubble where you're just looking inwardly at yourself, this is kind of easy to ignore. Like, you can kind of see through the smoke and mirrors of all these advertisements and de-influence yourself a lot of the times. But I think it gets really difficult when all of your friends or all the people you hang out with are software engineers or other high earners. And when you look around at your friends or your coworkers or your peers, you see them living in nice apartments. They have nice cars, nice watches, bougie vacations, nice designer clothes. And slowly, your perception of what is accepted or what is a normal amount of money to spend on something is going to rise. So for you to see that and then deliberately, intentionally, and diligently go against the grain and do the opposite is going to be pretty difficult, especially in the beginning, since it's going to feel like a long time before you start to see some material change in your net worth. At least that's how I felt when I first came to America. Now, that isn't to say that you should go cold turkey on the things that you actually enjoy and the things that actually make you happy. Now, I think I realized pretty early on that my financial journey or, anyone's financial journey is going to be thought of in terms of marathons and not sprints. Like if you work all of your life and you save every single dollar, every single cent so that you can reach this arbitrary FIRE goal, what is the point when you're finished and you're done and you have nothing to show for it? So in my eyes, there has to be some sort of balance, which leads me to key principle number 4, which is spend money on things that you care about. I read one time in Ramit Sethi's book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, where he says, spend money extravagantly on the things that you care about and cut costs mercilessly on the things that you don't. And aside from it being a super fire quote, this essentially sums up the fourth principle pretty well. Now, it's very easy to say that I want a very extravagant life. You know, I want to eat all the nice restaurants, I want to drive all the nice cars, all the nice vacations, all while still investing a ton of money. Like, we have to be realistic here. That's probably not going to happen unless you already make like a ton of money. So there has to be some level of compromise and sacrifice. And for me, I sat down and I really thought about what actually brings me joy in my day-to-day life. And for me, that was spending time with my friends and going on vacations and traveling. And to counteract that, I didn't really care for having an apartment that had like the newest finishings, or living in a high-rise building, or even having amenities. I also don't really care for conveniences. Like, I don't use DoorDash, I don't use Uber Eats. I will cook basically every single meal because I also do enjoy cooking. So with that thought in mind, I'd rather reasonably cut as much as I can from those categories like rent and like eating out and conveniences in order to save money and actually spend on the things that actually bring me way more joy, like hanging out with my friends or going on vacation, for example. And just for some context, last year I took 19 flights where I flew all across America and also Canada, while also going internationally to Thailand and to Costa Rica. And to continue that thought, travel is my highest category last year in terms of spending, aside from, you know, rent obviously. And it's because I really like to travel and I budget for it. And having that executive decision to, as Ramit has said in his book, spend extravagantly and cut mercilessly really comes into play and helps you build the life that actually matters to you. I'm going to be completely honest with you, the idea of compromising and the idea of saving matters less and less with how much money you have, which leads me to my fifth and most important principle of making more money. Now, you can scrimp and save and prioritize all you want, but past a certain point, all of that does not really matter if you don't bring in a lot of cash. Now, I like to think about it in terms of offense and defense. All of these things that I've told you so far up until now have been bolstering your defenses, except for maybe the investing one. We'll put that one on the aggressive side. But if you think about it, how are you going to go out and face the world, face your financial goals and, you know, what's holding you back with a big shield but a tiny little sword? And you might be asking, Kang, can you describe this in NBA terms? To which I would simply say yes. In your financial life, you want to emulate as best as you can 2-time finals MVP, two-way player Kawhi Leonard, specifically in 2019, where he can drop 50 points on a night while also locking up your opponent's best player. Okay, jokes aside, looking back at all the things that really helped me get to where I am financially today, the biggest one, and I will stress the most important one, is making a lot of money and working in big tech at a young age. Now, I think this is a hard truth that not a lot of people like to hear, but if we're being honest, it takes money to make money. So for you to see some significant change in your net worth, making more money so that you can invest more is really going to speed up that process. Now, to answer the question specifically on how I was able to get here in my career, has all to do with me not settling for what I have, but more importantly, all the luck and the advantages that I had along the way, which you can watch this video right here where I talk about my career progression and why I quit my first engineering internship halfway through.